Today I'm going to talk about citrus fruit cracking, specifically within the context of the trifoliate orange. Up here in this climate, it's just about the only citrus that can grow up here naturally without climate modification of like growing it in a greenhouse or, you know, geothermal, whatever. But this can survive outdoor temperatures during the winter time. So the trifoliate orange is pretty hardy, pretty cold tolerant in that sense. But this season I noticed a kind of a new thing emerge from this trifoliate orange, and it was that some of the fruits were actually beginning to crack. And so I was wondering what may have caused this, and you know, how might this problem be mitigated in the future. So all that is going to be talked about in this video. Alright, so here we have the citrus fruit cracking. I'm specifically talking about the trifoliate orange that I have growing here in this area. Citrus fruit cracking can also be pretty ubiquitous across multiple species of citrus, right? Like oranges, lemons, limes, grapefruit, all those things. So citrus fruit cracking is where the skin of that fruit begins to split, right? And so there can be some different factors that can contribute to this. And so this will expose the inner flesh of the fruit. Sometimes seeds may also become visible as you know, the pressure kind of forces the seeds out of the fruit, out of those gaps. And so that can be a pretty telltale sign that there might be some cracking going on, and so this could be a symptom of underlying causes, right? So why is this citrus fruit cracking? Well, initially I kind of thought it might be animal pressure. Like, I know we were going through a drought. Sometimes birds can start pecking at fruit in times of drought, but birds generally kind of leave the citrus, well, at least the trifoliate orange alone, because it is, you know, it's pretty acidic, and you know, I think they're pretty turned off by that. But you know, we have been in a pretty intense drought, so maybe the animals were just getting desperate. But then I did some deeper diving, right, and I think what it really comes down to at this point is plant stress, right? As I said, we were in a drought conditions, and so these drought conditions can contribute to plant stress, especially when we get a big rainfall event. That can really make things interesting, as we'll talk about. So generally, this fruit cracking can be an issue. It greatly reduces shelf life of the fruit. So when I harvest the fruit, the cracked fruit is always what I use first, because it's going to spoil within, you know, a week or two. And so to get the most productivity out of my harvest, that's what I do. Otherwise, the damaged fruit, the affected fruit, is going to be unmarketable, right? So to be efficient with your yield outcome, you want to try to reduce this as much as possible. All right, so as I have outlined here, we have plant stress being kind of the overarching theme here of where we have a drought. We have drought conditions, so the plant isn't getting all the water it needs from the soil. And then all of a sudden we get a big rain event, right? Like a downpour. It can just be a single rain event. And so the plant takes in all that water all of a sudden, and that water gets jettisoned into the fruit, into that fruit pulp, right? That flesh, that inner part of the fruit, and it expands so fast that the skin, the outer layer of that fruit, can't keep up with it, right? And so as the inside of the fruit expands like a balloon, the flesh, the skin on the outside splits, right, causing that cracking, right? So if we're growing this stuff for market, or even just for our own production, for our own food uses, you know, we want to try to balance things out as much as possible, right? Like if there are drought conditions, maybe try to irrigate a little bit, you know, add in some supplemental water just to get it through. You know, you could even, like, if it's going to be a huge rain event, like a one-time thing, you can, and you have been watering it, you can just put maybe a tarp down around the base or something, or, you know, pile it up with dry leaves so that the water can kind of wick off around that plant and not cause such an influx of water into that system. And then of course you can remove that after the rain has passed, subsided. Right, so typically fruits with higher sugar content will be maybe more susceptible to this issue, right? Because the more sugar that's in there, the higher that osmotic pressure is in the fruit, right? And so that can enhance the cracking effect. Certain genetics of certain varieties or certain species may also make some of these citrus fruits more susceptible as well to cracking. Also, what type of rootstock, if any of your varieties are grafted as well, may also contribute to that. Additionally, we can also have some biochemical activities like enzymatic action going on, right? So as I said, with this plant stress, again, in these drought conditions, it can change activities going on in the plants, right? So plants, of course, you know, have a lot of pectins in the fruits, especially in those outer layers of the fruit. Pectin can be present for structural integrity, you know, in those cell walls. You know, pectin can be a major part of these fruits as they develop, right, and mature. And so there's also some of these different pectolytic enzymes, like, you know, pectinase. There are some others that can break down some of these structural components in the fruit during times of stress, weakening that skin, right, and making it even more susceptible to cracking as well. And then we also have different minerals that can play a role, at least to an extent, right? Calcium and silica are two structural minerals that plants use, and if those are deficient, if there's if there's a drought and the plants can't get all the calcium and stuff they need from the soil, it'll make these fruits more prone to cracking as well. So you have a mineral aspect, you have a biochemical aspect, and then you have a physical environmental drought aspect, right? That all kind of can work in concert to produce this same effect of the citrus fruit cracking, right? It's just kind of like a different angle of looking at this issue. So what can we do, right? The most basic thing, probably the best starting point, is to just make sure the plants are getting consistent water. Not necessarily going out there and watering every day or anything like that, but just making sure that once or twice a week, the plants are getting a good deep watering if there's a drought occurring, right? And if there's an expected rain event, to try to balance that out, especially if you're a backyard gardener and you only have a few trees, you need to put out a couple of tarps or some way to divert that water just in the short term. It can help kind of balance out that water access potentially. And then from there, we can kind of begin to look at some of these other things, maybe get a soil test or look at a soil test. Is it low in calcium? Is silica might not even be measured in some cases, but are the plants getting the nutrients that they need? But typically, I didn't have any issues with this last year, but I am this year, and I know we're having a drought this year, so I suspect it's water access related, and then some of these other issues are stemming from that, right? But so maybe next year I'll try to be more mindful with making sure this tree gets a little bit more water, especially if there is a drought going on. Thank you so much for checking out this video on the citrus fruit cracking, with specific regard to the trifoliate orange, right? So I'm not really much of a citrus grower. I've only had experience really growing the trifoliate orange. Did have a indoor lemon tree for a few years, and that was pretty cool. But that aside, when you grow citrus outdoors, you expose it to more of those elements, right? And everything that comes with it, drought, heavy rains, and all of these things can play their role in shaping what the fruit production is going to be like. And we have these certain sensitive stages of these plants, like during that fruit fill period, where you don't want to get too much rain and you don't want to get too little rain, right? And we can also have other issues, as we talked about too, like mineral deficiencies or genetics, rootstocks, enzyme action, all those things. And some of those things can be tied together too, like drought may limit nutrient access for the plant, specifically with calcium and silica, and it may also influence enzymatic activity. When plant stress is increased because of drought conditions, certain processes can change or start to break down in these plants if the drought persists for long enough. So there's a lot of overlap here, but a good place to start is to just make sure that your plants have consistent and enough water, right? Not too much, not too little, but just making sure that they have that space to get their water, especially during these drought conditions, during that fruit fill period. So thank you so much for watching. Please feel free to subscribe. Always really appreciate the memberships as well. If you want to help contribute to this channel more directly, please consider becoming a member. It really helps out the channel. So with that, look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care.